Am I the asshole for exposing my ex to his mother about our kids? I, 45 female, am currently divorced from my ex Thomas, 47 male, of 30 years. We ended up seeing a lawyer to help with dividing stuff. Everything was pretty much wrapped up till he said he no longer wanted any part of our kids' lives, 5 male, and 12 female. I didn't argue with him about it since I already know what it's like having a parent who doesn't want you around or wants to be in your life. I asked what he wanted me to tell the kids and he just said, "Whatever you think is best, I don't care. I don't want to parent anymore." Everything was in agreement and signed with no fuss. A few weeks later I get a call from my ex-mill asking if we could meet each other. When I came over she broke down crying and begging to let my ex see his kids again. I was confused about what she meant because not once did he contact me after meeting the lawyer. She went on about how my ex said, he really missed them and that I was just a petty BTCH for taking full custody. Also that he was crying for days about it. I told her my version of events and she called it bullshit, saying her son wouldn't lie like that, especially not about his kids. Then I decided to call him in front of her. He didn't know she and I were meeting that day. I said, "Hey, 5 male, has a soccer game in a few days," which he did, "and I was wondering if you wanted to go. I know he'd really love it and be happy to see you." He instantly said, "No. I already said I'm not doing this anymore." I raised my voice a bit saying, "Well, what about holidays and birthdays, because we never discussed any of it and your family might want to see them." He just said, "My family already thinks the kids aren't mine anyway, so it doesn't matter." I asked, "Well, how do you think this is going to affect Denise, his mom? She is over the moon about them." He just said, "She loves me more than the kids, so I doubt this will be an issue for her." After a bit more talking we finally hung up. Ex-Mill was straight-faced and nodded at everything that just happened, saying, "I'm okay." She asked me to leave and said we would be in touch. Later that day I got a call from my ex saying how it's my fault he was kicked out of his mom's house and possibly will be taken off her will. Also that none of his family members will talk to him because of what ex-Mill heard. He threw a lot of insults at me before I hung up, and now him and his mates keep calling and texting me. My friend is saying I shouldn't have said anything in the first place and I ruined his life. Addition. Hello, thank you for your support and the gold reward. Yes, I plan to let Denise see the kids because I know she just wants to give them the world along with the rest of his family. I was honestly confused with what op meant at first and my daughter told me overpowered like in anime, but my sister clarified. Second edition. Hello again, I want to address something because this keeps coming up and I can't keep up with everyone. Due to actions he and I took when we were younger, my Christian parents thought it would be best he and I be married at the time. Not the asshole, he had the right to sign off his rights. He did not have the right to paint you in a bad light and make you look to be at fault and evil, manipulative. That's defamation of character. You had the right to set the record straight. His mom had the right to go no contact with her son, a grown man who didn't want contact with his actual young kids. Sounds like he's getting a taste of his own medicine, aka karma. Not the asshole. Your ex-Mill deserved to know what lies her son has been spreading and how little he wants to do with being a parent. Him being mad he was caught is his own fault, not yours. Not the asshole. He made a decision for which he knew his family would judge him negatively, so he lied and made you the scapegoat. You didn't go seeking out his family to tell them what he'd done, you were blindsided by the whole thing. No way were you obligated to carry that water for him. Not at all. I can't understand how anyone would ever take his side in this. He abandoned his children, blamed you, and now is angry that his malfeasance and subsequent lies have been found out. If I were you, I'd reach out to ex-Mill and see if she would be interested in seeing the kids and maybe having a relationship with her, unless there are toxic things about her you haven't included. It seems like she'd love to see them, and I'll bet they miss their grandma as well. Not the asshole. All you did was offer him an opportunity to see his children. This was done because he cried to mommy about how the mean ex was depriving him of that opportunity. He did the rest. Not the asshole. I mean, come on now, you know you're not the This guy abandoned his kids, cried crocodile tears to his mother and tore you down and made you seem like the bad guy, so prop himself up and then go caught. Or, as the kids today like to say, he fucked around and found out. I have no sympathy for him, and his response to being caught out is to go after you? Guess what? You're divorced and you don't have to take his, or his mates, shit. Block and move on. If it persists, call the police. And for what it's worth, if Grandma Denise loves her grandchildren, you should discuss with her ways she can stay in their lives. I'm sure your kids will prefer that. Not the asshole. Good on you for having his mother hear it directly from him. And good on her for kicking him out of his house. He's a deadbeat father, and anyone who sticks up for him is a deadbeat as well. Am I the asshole for forcing my husband to sleep on the couch? This conflict is pretty recent. F 29. Used to use tampons for my periods, but due to medical reasons couldn't do it anymore. Now I'm using pads, which isn't that big of a deal, but my husband disagrees. He firstly complained about me not consulting him first, but like I said, it's not a huge deal like BC. He then said he doesn't feel comfortable with me sleeping in bed wearing pads. This threw me off hard because I wasn't expecting him to have an issue on that regard. But he said it just doesn't feel comfortable for him and he would like me to use tampons at nighttime or sleep somewhere else. I laughed him off and kept sleeping on the bed while wearing my pads like there was no issue. This made him so uncomfortable he basically took the couch, then started complaining about how I forced him on the couch by making him uncomfortable after he already offered me compromises. But I told him he was being a drama queen because his compromises are illogical. I wouldn't stop using pads and free bleed on the bed nor risk my health and use tampons when the doctor advised against them. He's still upset with me even though I'm no longer on my period, saying I owe him for making him uncomfortable and brushing off his complaints. Go buy a new bed. In a new house. With a new husband. Not the asshole. Your husband needs to grow the hell up. Not the asshole. It's a huge pet peeve of mine when other men are idiots about a woman's menstruation. Not the asshole. Wow, just wow. He needs to grow up. Please do not have kids with this man if this is how he treats periods. His attitude is disgusting. And you do not have to consult him on anything regarding your period products. What off that is super controlling. Info. What is his objection to pads? I mean, not the asshole, but I'm honestly curious. Does he sleep with his hand in your cooch? Have incredibly sensitive hearing? That man is choosing a really weird hill to die on. Your period is your business. Not his. If he doesn't like it, he can sleep somewhere else. This is really off the wall behavior. Watch for more things like this. Frankly, I'm a little worried for his mental health. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Your husband is being creepy and controlling. Am I the asshole for telling my brother's wife she's responsible for his health declining? My brother, 30, is diabetic. Has type 1 diabetes and got it from when he was young. As his older sibling, I grew up watching my parents managing this condition for him. He has always been traumatized by this condition and never come to terms with it, so what he used to and still does is act like his condition doesn't exist. The family, mom is now deceased. Didn't know how to handle it because if we let him act like that then there would major consequences, so we took it upon ourselves to manage his condition for him. We'd watch his eating habits and correct them, watch his insulin intake, and encourage him to live healthy. When he brought his now wife home, we told her how it is and that he can be reckless and in denial about his condition, and so she needed to help and work with us and keep an eye on him. She did her best at first but started caving into his complaints about not being able to eat this or that, or when he complains about his insulin intake and having to pay for it. He got increasingly worse the past 3 months. We didn't know exactly what was going on till his wife called to tell us he was in the hospital because of a hyperglycemic episode. His blood sugar levels were too high, he almost went into a diabetic coma. The reason for this was because he wasn't taking the right dosage of insulin. I talked to his wife and had an argument with her. She said he deliberately kept stretching out his insulin dosage to be able to save insulin and not have to buy it. I told her still she should have had kept an eye on him. It's unfortunate that their insurance is screwed and financial situation is rough, but she should have stopped him and not stood there watching. She said I was being too hard on her, but I told her that if he was doing this under the family's watch we wouldn't have allowed it, and so she bears part of the blame for him staying in the hospital. She started crying and asked for a minute for herself. I went home because I couldn't see him after waiting for long. My dad called later asking about my conversation with sister-in-law. I refrained from talking about it, but he said she called him and told him everything. He said I shouldn't have said this to her and made her feel guilty. I said I was just disappointed she let this happen and expected her to be the responsible one if my brother wasn't. He said I have to apologize, but I'm unsure whether I was completely at fault here because I feel there's a bit of neglect on her part. You are the asshole. My father and uncle have both had type 1 since they were 5 years old. They are both now late 60s. Back then it was a death sentence. Docs told them they'd be lucky to see 30. Since children they were able to manage their health with little to no issues. In my 40 years of life I've seen my father go into diabetic shock once, and it was after a day of him pushing himself too hard in a home renovation. Too long did not read. This is your brother as an adult. As such it is his responsibility alone to manage his health. His wife is there as a support, not as a nurse. Your parents failed him, and now he's failing himself. You taking it out on her is unjustified. You are the asshole. Your brother is 30 fucking years old. He is a grown adult. His wife cannot be on donut watch 24/7. She can't take food out of his hand. She can't force medication into his body. He is an adult who has made self-destructive choices about his health. I know it's hard to hear when he's in the hospital, but his own irresponsibility is what landed him there. And if you are going to point the finger at his wife, you should point one even more at your parents. Y'all's enabling has allowed your brother to grow up into the irresponsible adult he is now. I hope your brother recovers. If he does, the come to Jesus talk you need to be having is with him, not his wife. She's his wife, not his mommy. Stop treating women like your caretakers. Except your sister-in-law. No one in your family did him a favor by managing his condition into adulthood. This was enabling his behavior because now he's a grown adult that is irresponsible. Sil did try, but your brother is the issue. Maybe this hospitalization will be his wake-up call and the bill will be higher than the insulin. Also, since he was trying to stretch out the insulin, it shows he's very well aware of his condition and still didn't monitor himself. You can't blame everything on Sil, and yes, going off on her at the hospital when her husband almost died for being childish about his medical condition and putting the sole blame on her asshole behavior. Your father is right. You are the asshole. He's a grown-ass man and she's his wife, not his maid. My little cousin is 7 this year. He knows what he should be eating and has to help calculate his insulin every time he eats. It's his health condition and he's going to have to learn to manage it. He's a child and he get on just fine. Your brother is a grown-ass man and can't do it. You are the asshole, but that's probably your wife's fault. Am I the asshole for threatening to not walk down the aisle if my fiancé's twin brother attends the wedding? I, 30F, am supposed about to get married to my fiancé, 27M. But there's a big problem concerning our wedding, and that's his twin brother. His brother is a drug addict and got in a lot of troubles in the past cause of it. I obviously don't want a drug addict invited at my wedding, but my fiancé insists not only to invite him, but to make him his groomsman too. He says that he went to rehab and he's now clean, but I seriously doubt that. I know people like him, they never change. We kept arguing about it for a couple of days, till yesterday when he invited his brother and his mom over to dinner to convince me to have a change of heart and let him attend the wedding. I was furious that he would invite that drug addict and their nutcase of a mom to my house without consulting me first. I told them that I'm not gonna make dinner for a dopehead and to please leave my house. His brother then started sobbing, saying that I'm unfair for not letting him support his brother on his big day just because of some stupid mistakes, and my future mill started berating me about how heartless I am for doing this to their sons and being so hung up on something that's in the past. But I told them to drop the act. These stupid mistakes literally landed him in jail, and I'm not gonna allow a former offender at my wedding under any circumstances. And I also told my future mill to stay in lane, as this is not her wedding and she's also a big reason for why we've got into this situation, as she kept enabling his addiction for a long time. They started shouting at me, but I eventually managed to make them leave my house. My fiancé was furious at me and told me he can't believe how badly I treated his family. I told him that's not my fault, that his family is formed of a bunch of nutcases, which turned into another argument between us, with me saying that if I see his twin brother between the guests at the wedding, then I'm simply not gonna walk down the aisle. My fiancé slept on the couch that night and he's still treating me coldly even today, but I'm still not willing to reconsider my decision. If anything, I'm now seriously considering to hire a security guard to keep that drug addict, and possibly their crazy mom too, away from my wedding. Am I the asshole or I'm justified in my decision? Don't worry, the twin brother won't be at your wedding because there's not going to be one. Why would anyone marry someone who is so incredibly judgmental and cruel to their family? You are the asshole. You need to run away from this crazy person now. Don't marry them. Your life will be ruined. Pass that message on to your fiancé for me, will you, doll? You are the asshole. You are the asshole. I am a drug addict, alcoholic, and have been clean longer than you have been alive. People do change. On a separate train of thought, for every 10 people you have invited, at the very least one of them has a substance abuse problem. You just don't know about it yet. You are the asshole. It's your husband's marriage also, no? On the plus side, you figured out this incompatibility prior to tying the knot. Time to cancel the wedding. He says that he went to rehab and he's now clean. But I seriously doubt that. I know people like him, they never change. Some people do change. All? Certainly not. But some do. Wow, you are the asshole. Bridezilla much? You can't predict someone's future based off of their past. Drug addiction is a disease. You have to try and give him a chance to succeed in sobriety. I doubt seriously you will be married for long with that attitude. Wow. With any luck, your fiancé is reconsidering the idea of marrying you and will have a fortunate escape from your toxic behavior. You are the asshole, in case that wasn't clear. People can reform, and you were a complete asshole to your fiancé, his brother, and their mom with no evidence to support what seems like highly personalized anger.